Reaching the age of 70 is not just another milestone. It is a powerful turning point. At this stage, most men and women have already walked through decades of experiences, building families, raising children, working hard, enduring heartbreaks, and celebrating victories. But here's the truth very few will tell you. Remarrying after 70 is often not the gift it may appear to be. While society may push the idea that companionship should always lead to marriage, senior life experts reveal a much more sobering perspective. Marriage at this stage is no longer about building a life together. It often becomes about managing risks, balancing health concerns, and protecting what you have already worked so hard to earn. Your physical strength is not what it used to be. Your finances require careful protection, and your mental peace is more valuable than ever. This is not about being against love or companionship. It is about protecting your health, your freedom, and your future. In this video, you will discover 5 shocking reasons why experts strongly caution against remarriage after 70, and why making the wrong choice could cost you more than you think. 1. Health risks and stress burden. When you reach your 70s, health is no longer something you can take for granted. Your body has carried you through decades of work, responsibility, and life's challenges, but it is also more fragile now. Adding the commitment of marriage at this stage often introduces health risks that people rarely consider. Senior life experts point out that stress is one of the most damaging forces to the aging body. Marriage, no matter how loving, comes with responsibility, compromise, and sometimes conflict. For someone over 70, these stressors can manifest in very real physical consequences. Elevated blood pressure, sleep disturbances, heart strain, and compromised immune function are common outcomes of constant stress. Even small disagreements that may have felt manageable in younger years can feel overwhelming now. Another important factor is caregiving stress. If you remarry, there is always the possibility that your partner could develop health issues requiring constant attention. At 70 and beyond, this often turns into one elderly person caring for another, which can be exhausting both physically and mentally. Research shows that spousal caregiving in older age dramatically increases the caregiver's risk of depression, chronic illness, and even premature death. Instead of using your later years to focus on healing, relaxation, and self-care, you may find yourself trapped in a cycle of hospital visits, medication schedules, and sleepless nights. The reverse is also true. If you fall ill, your new spouse may not be physically or emotionally equipped to care for you. This can create feelings of guilt and strain in the relationship, as both individuals struggle with the limitations of aging. What should have been a peaceful chapter of your life can quickly become a stressful and draining experience. It is also important to recognize that medical decisions become more complicated with remarriage. A new spouse legally gains influence over your healthcare choices, which can create tension with your adult children or loved ones who have been by your side for decades. In emergency situations, this can lead to disputes about treatments, living arrangements, or end-of-life care. Instead of easing your health journey, remarriage can complicate it in ways that leave you vulnerable. On the psychological side, studies highlight how personal space and freedom directly contribute to mental well-being in older adults. At 70, your mind often craves peace, stability, and independence. Marriage introduces constant adjustments and negotiations, which may limit the quiet routine that helps you feel balanced. The result is mental fatigue that undermines your overall health. What senior experts recommend instead is focusing on maintaining strong friendships, joining social groups, or exploring companionship without formal marriage. This way, you can enjoy the emotional benefits of connection without carrying the heavy health risks tied to marital stress. Protecting your physical and mental well-being should always be the top priority at this stage of life. Remember, you worked hard for decades to reach this point. Why put your health at risk for responsibilities that could weigh you down? 2. Financial vulnerabilities and asset risks. One of the most shocking reasons experts caution against remarriage after 70 is the financial vulnerability it creates. By this stage in life, you have already spent decades working, saving, and building your retirement nest egg. You may own a home, have pensions, savings accounts, or investments that are designed to support your lifestyle in your later years. But when you remarry, all of that hard work and stability can suddenly be at risk. Marriage at 70 is not just about love, it is a legal and financial contract. A new spouse automatically gains rights to your assets, inheritances, and property, unless you take specific and often complicated legal precautions. This can place your wealth and retirement savings in jeopardy, especially if your new partner has their own financial issues, debt, or obligations. Even if the relationship starts with trust and good intentions, money challenges are one of the most common sources of conflict in senior marriages. Another layer of risk is how remarriage impacts your children and grandchildren. If you have spent years planning to leave them a financial legacy, a new marriage can disrupt that plan. By law, a new spouse often inherits significant portions of your estate, which can leave your children battling legal disputes after your death. Families are frequently torn apart by these conflicts, leading to resentment, broken trust, and permanent divisions. What was meant to be your final gift to your family can become a source of pain and argument. Taxes and benefits also shift when you remarry. Many seniors rely on Social Security benefits, pensions, or survivor benefits from a late spouse, but remarriage can alter or even eliminate those benefits, cutting into your monthly income. For instance, remarriage may stop you from receiving spousal benefits tied to your late husband or wife. At a time when financial stability matters more than ever, this kind of loss can make daily living more difficult and stressful. Additionally, healthcare and insurance costs are deeply affected by remarriage. Medicare coverage, supplemental insurance, and even nursing home eligibility can change when you take on a new spouse. If your partner has existing health conditions or debts, you may find yourself responsible for bills you never expected to pay. Senior life experts warn that this hidden financial trap has left many elderly couples in bankruptcy or struggling to afford basic care. There is also the risk of financial exploitation. Sadly, many seniors have fallen victim to opportunistic relationships where the partner's primary motivation is access to money or assets. This does not mean all relationships are dishonest, but being realistic about vulnerability is crucial. At 70, you should not have to worry about being taken advantage of financially, yet remarriage often opens the door to that risk. Instead of remarrying, experts recommend exploring alternatives that allow you to keep your finances secure while still enjoying companionship. Cohabitation agreements, legal trusts, or simply maintaining separate households can provide intimacy without jeopardizing your financial independence. At this stage, protecting your legacy and ensuring your comfort should outweigh the pressure of traditional marital expectations. The financial stability you worked for over decades deserves to be safeguarded. Remarrying after 70 often exposes you to risks that can undo years of sacrifice and discipline. Your money should serve your peace, your health, and your freedom, not complicate your life in ways that cause stress and loss. 3. Emotional strain and loss of independence. At 70 and beyond, emotional well-being becomes just as important as physical health. Senior life experts emphasize that the key to peace and fulfillment in later years is maintaining independence, freedom, and stability. Remarrying, however, can place you in an emotionally demanding situation that chips away at the serenity you worked so hard to build. Marriage requires constant compromise. While compromise may feel natural when you are younger, it can become emotionally draining in your 70s. By this point, you have already developed a lifestyle, habits, and routines that make you comfortable. You may enjoy waking up at your own pace, eating when you want, or organizing your home exactly as you like it. A new spouse means new expectations, new adjustments, and sometimes unwanted obligations. This shift can feel like a loss of control over your daily life, sparking frustration and resentment. Another factor is the risk of emotional conflict. Every relationship has disagreements, but in older age, they take a heavier toll. Emotional strain at this stage can worsen mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, or loneliness. Studies show that older adults who experience marital conflict are more likely to report poor psychological health compared to those who remain single. What might have been tolerable in your 30s or 40s now feels overwhelming because the emotional energy required to maintain balance is harder to sustain. Independence is also tied to decision-making. Remarrying means sharing authority over important choices: where to live, how to spend money, how to handle family matters, or even how to manage holidays. For seniors who deeply value their independence, this can feel like surrendering personal freedom. Instead of enjoying the autonomy you earned, you may find yourself negotiating every detail of life again, which can be draining. There is also the matter of personal identity. Many men and women in their 70s have already defined who they are outside of marriage, especially if they lost a spouse or lived single for years. Remarrying can blur that sense of identity, forcing you to once again adapt to someone else's expectations or needs. This can lead to feelings of being trapped or losing yourself in the relationship. Emotional freedom at this stage is not just a preference. It is essential for mental health and overall happiness. Another overlooked issue is family dynamics. Adult children often have strong emotions when a parent remarries later in life. They may feel replaced, pushed aside, or concerned about the intentions of the new partner. This can create tension and emotional conflict that weighs heavily on you. Instead of bringing joy, remarriage may stir stress between you and your family, putting you in the middle of disputes that erode your peace of mind. What experts recommend instead is pursuing companionship without the binding commitments of marriage. Close friendships, travel groups, or even community activities can provide rich emotional fulfillment without threatening independence. In fact, seniors who build strong social networks report higher levels of happiness and fewer signs of depression compared to those who remarry. Companionship does not have to come with the heavy responsibilities of marriage. At 70, your emotional health should be guarded with the same care as your physical health. Protecting your independence means protecting your peace. By avoiding remarriage, you preserve the freedom to live on your own terms, maintain your identity, and enjoy relationships without unnecessary strain. 4. Family conflicts and broken legacies. One of the most painful consequences of remarriage after 70 is the ripple effect it creates within families. Senior life experts warn that what may begin as a search for companionship can quickly evolve into a battle between spouses, children, and even grandchildren. At this stage in life, your family legacy, built over decades, is supposed to represent stability, love, and continuity. Yet remarriage often introduces confusion, mistrust, and division that may last long after you are gone. When a parent remarries in their 70s, adult children frequently feel unsettled. They may question the motives of the new partner, especially if the marriage happens quickly. This skepticism is not always unfair. Financial exploitation of seniors is a growing problem, and family members may instinctively try to protect you. But even if your partner has good intentions, this suspicion creates distance and tension that poisons family relationships. Instead of unity, you may face constant doubt and criticism, which is emotionally exhausting. The conflict extends to inheritance and legacy. A remarriage often changes the natural flow of assets, especially if legal documents are not updated or if state laws override your intentions. For example, a new spouse is often legally entitled to a portion of your estate, regardless of your will. This can create bitterness among your children, who may feel disinherited or betrayed. The result? Costly court battles, fractured sibling bonds, and resentment toward the very person you intended to bring happiness into your life. Even beyond money, remarriage affects family traditions and emotional bonds. Imagine family holidays, birthdays, or reunions with a new spouse at the table. While some families may adapt, others struggle. Children may feel as though their deceased parent's memory is being replaced, or that family rituals are being reshaped by an outsider. These emotional wounds often do not heal, creating long-term rifts that divide families for years. Instead of bringing harmony, remarriage often fuels conflict that damages your role as the cornerstone of the family. Another overlooked consequence is the stress it places on grandchildren. Younger family members may feel confused, especially if they see conflict between their parents and their grandparents' new spouse. They may not understand the dynamics of estate disputes, but they can sense division and hostility. What should be a joyful bond between grandparent and grandchild may be overshadowed by family tension. Senior life experts emphasize that your later years should be a time of legacy building, not conflict management. Your family deserves to remember you for your wisdom, love, and the stability you provided, not for bitter disputes caused by remarriage. Protecting your legacy means ensuring that the values you stood for throughout your life remain intact, unclouded by preventable conflicts. The alternative is to foster companionship in ways that preserve family unity. Spending time with close friends, investing in your children and grandchildren, and engaging in meaningful social activities provide connection without sparking rivalry or mistrust. Choosing not to remarry can actually strengthen family bonds, because your children and grandchildren see that your focus is on them, not on reshaping family structures late in life. In the end, remarriage after 70 rarely adds to your family's peace. It often subtracts from it. By avoiding it, you protect your legacy, preserve harmony, and ensure your family remembers you for love and wisdom rather than division. 5. The power of freedom and self-fulfillment. By the time you reach 70, you have already lived through the responsibilities of career, family, and long-term commitments. These decades shaped you, but they also placed enormous demands on your time, energy, and freedom. Senior life experts emphasize that the later years should not be about taking on new burdens, but about finally enjoying the fruits of your labor. Remarriage, however, can limit that freedom and restrict the opportunities for self-fulfillment that this stage of life uniquely provides. When you remain unmarried, you have complete control over your schedule and choices. You can travel when you wish, pursue hobbies without compromise, and spend time with the people who uplift you rather than those who drain you. At 70 and beyond, this independence is priceless. A new marriage, while it may appear comforting, often reintroduces obligations and restrictions. Suddenly, you are expected to align your daily routine, finances, and even social interactions with another person's needs. This means less time for personal passions and more time negotiating decisions you thought you had left behind decades ago. Freedom at this age is also tied to exploration. Many seniors report that the happiest years of their life begin after they stop trying to meet everyone else's expectations. They embrace learning, creativity, spirituality, or travel without the weight of constant compromise. Marriage can interfere with this exploration by redirecting energy toward maintaining the relationship instead of deepening personal growth. By choosing not to remarry, you protect the chance to rediscover yourself in ways you never had time for before. Another aspect of self-fulfillment is emotional clarity. Marriage introduces inevitable ups and downs, but at 70, the desire for stability outweighs the tolerance for drama. When you remain single, you have the peace of mind that comes with fewer emotional entanglements. You can cultivate friendships, engage in meaningful volunteer work, or deepen bonds with your children and grandchildren without the added responsibility of managing a spouse's expectations. This simplicity brings a unique kind of joy that many remarried seniors quietly admit they miss. Spiritual growth is another dimension often overlooked. Later life is a natural time for reflection, wisdom, and preparing for the legacy you wish to leave behind. Marriage can sometimes distract from this process, pulling focus away from inner fulfillment and toward external obligations. Without the pressures of remarriage, you are free to focus on personal peace, meditation, and spiritual understanding, areas that bring deep satisfaction in older age. There is also the practical matter of personal space. At 70, solitude becomes healing, not lonely. It allows you to rest when you need, think clearly, and engage in activities at your own pace. Remarriage often reduces this space, introducing the constant presence of another person in your life. For some, that companionship is welcome, but for many, it becomes a drain on the independence they value most. Senior life experts consistently argue that your later years should be defined by freedom, not obligation. The peace you gain from staying unmarried allows you to focus on your own well-being, pursue passions, and leave behind a legacy rooted in strength rather than stress. Remarrying after 70, in contrast, too often removes this freedom and replaces it with duties that can limit your happiness. Ultimately, choosing not to remarry is not about rejecting love. It is about embracing yourself. Your final decades can be the most fulfilling of your life if you protect your independence, honor your desires, and live without unnecessary restrictions. That is the real gift of staying single after 70. Life after 70 should be about peace, freedom, and fulfillment, not about taking on new risks. Senior life experts make it clear. Remarriage at this stage often introduces more challenges than benefits. From health burdens to financial risks, from family conflicts to loss of independence, the costs are simply too high. But choosing not to remarry does not mean living without love. It means embracing companionship in healthier, less complicated ways, while protecting your well-being and legacy. At 70 and beyond, your focus should be on joy, freedom, and leaving behind the best version of yourself, without unnecessary compromise.